Introduction. The Bible gives the first and only true account of the origin of mankind. It is the only book containing an accurate record of the progress of man toward civilization, and it is the indispensable reference of all searchers after the real facts of the birth of humanity and its progress toward the civilization of today, beginning with his creation. It is the only authentic record of man. Authentic because it is first hand, not a copy of something else or a scientific or literary review, but a dispassionate record of man's creation and progress, untrimmed, unshaped, and unvarnished, to suit prejudice. It would not be a complete record if it did not show with the rest of them the origin of the black man, and woe for all these pinnacle thieves. It shows that he, the black man, is the father of civilization. The black man has been misrepresented by prejudiced historians and lecturers. It has been and is now quoted that Ham, the father of the black man, was cursed by his father Noah. Now, in regard to this incident, let us take the biblical record for it, and anyone not totally blind with prejudice will be convinced by reading in the book of Genesis, the 9th chapter, from the 20th to the 27th verse inclusive, that Noah did not, for he could not, curse Ham. Although he did in a fit of intoxication pronounce a curse on Canaan, the son of Ham. In passing, I might mention that Canaan was never inconvenienced by the curse of Noah, because he was the father of 7 prosperous nations. Foremost among them were the Canaanites, Phoenicians, and Sidonians. The Sidonians sprang from Sidon, who was the first son of Canaan, according to Genesis 10th chapter 15th verse. These same Sidonians are the men descended from black men, whom Solomon ordered Hiram of Tyre to engage to do the skilled hewing and designing of the timber work on Solomon's temple. Solomon declaring that these Sidonians, black men, were the only men possessed with anywhere near sufficient skill to take charge of and successfully complete the artistic timber work on his Solomon's temple. 1 Kings 5th chapter 6th verse speaks very plainly of this fact. Solomon knew the black race was a superior, not an inferior race. He married Pharaoh's daughter. See 1 Kings 3rd chapter 1st verse. 7th chapter 8th verse. Also the 9th chapter and 16th verse. Solomon's wife might have been of as dark skin or even as black as he was. For history shows that Egypt had 2 full-blooded Ethiopian pharaohs just before and during the reign of Solomon, according to Herodotus. The names of these 2 Ethiopians were Sabbaco, or Sabachos, and Sethos. So Solomon surely got an Ethiopian Negro, a black woman, for a wife. This naturally increased the proportion of Negro blood in the veins of the future king of the Jews. Viewing the progress of the immediate descendants of Ham, we learn that a curse laid upon one by mortal or That day was as foolish and ineffective as it is in this day. The story about this curse, also the story of the black man who contended that a black skin and woolly hair is a disgrace, has, according to the Bible, no foundation. Speaking of black skin, the greatest brain work and wisdom ever given to this world was given by men of black skins, or at least in whose veins the greatest portion of blood was Ethiopian or Negro blood. As to this assertion in King Solomon, see Songs of Solomon, first chapter, 6th verse. Solomon's dark skin should cause no surprise because his mother, Hittite, was also the widow of Uriah. See 2 Samuel 12th chapter, 9th and 10th verse. The Hittites are the descendants of Heth, and Heth was the second son of Canaan. See Genesis 10th chapter and the 15th verse. As to the woolly hair, Jesus, the blessed Savior of mankind, will have his head covered with woolly hair when he comes to judge the world. Daniel 7th chapter, 9th and 10th verses. Now, if Daniel's prophecy is true that when Christ left this earth he had woolly hair, he naturally will return with woolly hair. And the pictures of him today are an erroneous conception of him by the artist. This grand old book, the Bible, does not show that God ever turned a man black to disgrace him for his sins or anything else. But this same Bible does show that God's power did turn a man white to disgrace him because of his sins, and said that his seed would be likewise forever. Facts are stubborn things and often very disagreeable, sometimes even sickening. And by reading carefully the 5th chapter of the 2nd Kings, 25th, 26th, and 27th verses, many of our highly civilized brethren, whose ancient ancestors disgraced them, will suffer an alarming fit of nausea. Among the many low, cowardly things that have been said and done against the Negro during this Christian era, one poor, benighted individual published a joke in book form in which he claims that the Negro is a beast. The poor fellow tries to be serious and no doubt thinks he is offering at least some proof of his assertion. The poor fellow, of course, receives some sympathy and would no doubt receive as much as any of the rest of his class, were it not for the fact that he holds a professorship in one of our leading American Christian universities. Of course, the disgust, if any, is felt for those responsible for placing the poor devil in such a position. And the real and well-placed sympathy is for the student who must suffer because of this fellow. The fact remains, however, that regardless of what has been said and done against the Negro, and of whatever might be said or done against him in future, he is the only man who can trace himself back through the ages to his origin and find monumental evidence of his unequaled greatness, his prowess, the laurels and great honors he won, the things he created and perfected which have a direct influence on our civilization of today. The black man, I boldly assert, was the father of civilization. Born in the land of Egypt, and the different branches of science and art were simply transmitted to other races, which, as the ages have rolled by, have only been enlarged and to some extent improved upon. Even the modern American Negro has proven that he is original. For instance, as a tonsorial artist, he has no superiors, and no Negro was ever known to enter a barber college to learn the trade. Negroes inherit the sweetest, most musical voices. And if you have not heard a Negro quartet or chorus after they have arranged the harmony of a piece they are to sing, you have not heard what is best and sweetest in vocal music. As instrumentalists, not forgetting the many others, I simply mention Blind Tom and Blind Boone. The fame of these two men needs no comment. They only displayed that talent handed down to them through centuries by their black ancestors. As for the Negro being original, why the Negro has given great America the only claim she ever did or ever will have to a national music. God honored the black man by allowing some of his Ethiopian blood to flow in the veins of his only son, Jesus Christ. And I unhesitatingly assert that Jesus would in America be classed a Negro. I make this assertion only on the authority of the Bible, according to which Jesus was born out of the tribe of Judah. Judah had only 5 children, and they were males. First Chronicles, 2nd chapter and 4th verse. 3 by his first wife and 2 by his second wife. First Chronicles, 2nd chapter, 3rd and 4th verses. And both of his wives were descendants of Canaan, a black man who was the son of Ham. Genesis 10, chapter 6th verse. Tamar, Judah's second wife, bore him 2 of these sons whose names were Pharez and Zerah. First Chronicles, 2nd chapter and 4th verse. These 2 names appear in the genealogy of Jesus Christ in the book of Matthew, 1st chapter, 3rd verse. So it is no trouble to see that Judah, of whom Christ was to come, started out by presenting to the world children of Canaanite women who were Hamite descendants. Now, Virgin Mary, of whom Christ was born, was beyond all doubt a woman out of the tribe of Judah. And every Bible reference proclaims that Jesus was to spring from the tribe of Judah. Genesis 49:10, Hebrews 7:14, Revelation 5, 5th verse. Our beloved St. Paul tells us in Romans 1, verse 3, that Jesus was of the seed of David according to the flesh. David, the 10th man named from Judah in the genealogy of Jesus Christ. Matthew, 1st chapter, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th verses. Added to this, David's great-grandfather Boaz was born of the woman Rahab, who was a direct descendant of Ham. Matthew, 1st chapter, 5th verse. This also shows that David, one of God's greatest soldiers, was one who most successfully led his people and one who had Negro blood in his veins. Bible history is full of honors for the black man, Jethro, the Ethiopian or Negro father-in-law of Moses, who was the author who first employed that which is today our judicial system, considerably twisted and revised to meet the changing conditions of civilization. Exodus 18th chapter. This chapter tells of Jethro's visit to Moses and how he gave Moses the foundation of what is today our system of graded courts for pronouncing judgments. Again, Moses, the Hebrew emancipator, was named by a black woman, Pharaoh's daughter. She said she called him Moses because she drew him out of the water, Exodus 2, verse 10. And besides, black men educated Moses. At any rate, he received what education he had in the schools of the black people of Egypt. Acts 7th and 22nd verse. So there is nothing remarkable in the fact that Dr. Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, W.S. Scarborough, and many other Negro or black men occupy place among the foremost and most eminent educators of the world. And why should they not? They are descended from fathers who ruled Egypt centuries ago, and with their great wisdom laid the foundation of learning. This is an excerpt picture. Bishop H.M. Turner, D.D., LLD, the most fearless defender the Afro-Americans have. Bishop H.M. Turner, D.D., LLD. Bishop H.M. Turner, born at Newberry, South Carolina, February 1st, 1833, is the senior bishop of the AME Church. He has been bishop for 31 years and is quoted as the walking encyclopedia of Methodism. And for this cause, the last General Conference that convened at Norfolk, Virginia on May 1908 voted unanimously for a good bishop to be the historian of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. It is to be remembered that Bishop Turner was the first colored man to be a commissioned officer in the United States Army, which appointment he received from President Lincoln. The bishop was twice a member of the Georgia legislature and also the first of his church to be elected bishop to Africa.